Hello and welcome in. It is Sunday, September 21st, and we really appreciate you being here. I'm Greg McElroy, and this is Always College Football. We always do our Sunday show. It's kind of the immediate takeaways. This Sunday show is a little different. Not that different from what we've done in the past. What's different about it is the fact that we had a game that finished up like an hour ago, or so it felt like, between USC and Michigan State. So we have not had a chance in an effort to be fully transparent. When I was waking up for my flight home from Oklahoma City, that game was literally just finishing. So I didn't catch the second half of that one. I did watch the first half, and I did like what I've seen. It's very impressive what USC is currently doing. That's for sure, but we probably won't have a detailed documentation considering I didn't get to see the second half. I will get to it tomorrow, though. That's what Mondays are for, when we have deeper dives, a little more time to review. Today is kind of a bounce around the world, hit some of the biggest games, and we'll have some fun. It was a big one, too. In Bloomington, you got a top 10 team that gets absolutely destroyed. In Norman, you now have a team that is sitting there, perfect 4-0, with a gettable Kent State coming up next. So the Sooners should be undefeated when they take on the Texas Longhorns in the Red River rivalry. You have a possible playoff contender, maybe even a national championship contender that has emerged out of Salt Lake, but not in Salt Lake. The school is not in Salt Lake. And who would have thought? Backup quarterbacks, huge storyline throughout the day. And then in Miami, a brutal beatdown there in Coral Gables. We'll start in Bloomington with what might have been the biggest surprise of the entire day. I thought Indiana would win the game. I did not think Indiana would win by 50. So this was supposed to be a massive game. First time both Indiana and Illinois have been ranked and playing since 1950. It's been a while. And this was probably one of the most sideways games I've seen so far this year. Look, I will admit, and there have been several Illini fans that have been frustrated with me by this. I was kind of not a believer, kind of thought they were a bit of a paper tiger. You look at the box score the first 3 weeks, you look at the results the first 3 weeks, they told some different stories. So I thought there was a chance that they could lose this game, but man, to lose the game in almost every aspect of it was a little surprising. Of course, it started there early in the game. Illini go out, get the punt blocked, and now D'Angelo Pons breaks through, who, by the way, is just a fantastic football player, recovers the ball. That was kind of the start of what might have been a pretty crazy sequence, I guess you could say. And it kind of set the tone for Illinois, a team that's been disciplined, that has had kind of all the right bounces go their way so far. And I think Brett Bielema summed it up pretty well, saying they just didn't respond very well to the adversity that they got early on. Never really got a whole lot going on offense or defense. But the star coming out of this game has to be Fernando Mendoza. He completes his final 17 attempts. He finishes the game 21 of 23, goes for 5 touchdowns. One of the best performances I've seen so far this year against quality competition. It was off the charts good. And while there were some issues with Illinois defensively, and yes, they lose one of their best players to a targeting ejection, there were some things and there were some challenges, but if you look at the efficiency, I don't care who was out there. You could have put the 85 Bears out there, and I'm not sure it would have made a huge difference with how he was playing throughout the game. Elijah Surratt was amazing. He now gets going. Several other guys find the end zone. That's massive. But I think one of the biggest stories in the game, when you think Brett Bielema, what do you think? What's the thought? Like, if you're closing your eyes and visualizing a Brett Bielema coach team, what do you think they're doing well? Probably running the football, right? Like, that's kind of what he's been dating back to his time at Arkansas and prior to that at Wisconsin. He's always run the football. Well, you look at the final rushing numbers. One team goes for over 300. One team finishes with just 2. Probably would have thought Illinois would be the team more likely to finish with 300 yards rushing. Not the case. They were totally destroyed up front. You got to give a ton of credit to the Hoosiers offensive line. I think you got to be really proud of what you saw in some of the diversity in the run game and the front that Indiana has now defensively, a spot that we weren't sure about. They were constantly getting after Luke Altmaier, 7 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss, and just 1 of 10 on third down. This veteran offensive line thought it was a team strength. You saw some weakness show up in the first half of that Duke game. You just wondered if that weakness was real or if it was just a bad showing. Clearly, maybe it's real. And that's a concern, especially looking at what's coming up in the future here for the Illini. It's not over by any stretch. Team's got a lot of work to do, that's for sure. But a team that was kind of built on physicality, built on fundamentals, they lost pretty much in every aspect of the game. So we will see what happens. But for Indiana, we haven't talked about them a whole lot, right? We haven't really discussed Indiana because it hadn't played anybody in the first 3 weeks. This is their first win over a top 10 opponent in quite a while. This is validation that last year was not the anomaly, but the new norm under head coach Curt Cignetti. So I think it was very, very impressive, and I look forward to ranking this Indiana team when we get to our ranking show on Wednesday, because they were sitting there like 19, I think, 20 or so. Tell me a team that's looked better in a big game this year than what we saw from Indiana this past weekend. We'll go next to the game in Norman. We were on the call. I will admit, probably one of the most, I don't want to call it dramatic because that seems weird, but I guess you could say controversial, challenging as an analyst in the booth, a color guy in the booth. You never want games to come down to officiating decisions. You never want that, right? It's just, I want, as a player, I want it to be decided on the field. And in this game, it felt like the officials' involvement or lack thereof played a pivotal role. The SEC has already released a statement, and it was tough to watch from time to time. Some of the things that were called, some of the things that went against Auburn, some of the things that went against Oklahoma in the process. So I feel like the officiating was not great in either direction, but man, the big plays that were wiped out because of what I thought were some gaffes by the officials, that to me is pretty significant. I think Auburn and Hugh Freeze probably going to be pretty frustrated. Look, a lot of the narrative centered around Jackson Arnold's return to Norman and how would he handle the emotions, handle the environment, and how will he play? This is a guy that had a long time, is supposed to be the savior of the Oklahoma program. There were moments in this performance from him. I thought he was pretty good. But also at the same time, I thought some of his old habits came out to the forefront. How was this game won? Well, 10 sacks should probably indicate exactly how this thing went. This was a school record for Oklahoma. They were completely dominant up front throughout most of the game with their pass rush. You had Jaden Jackson, you had R. Mason Thomas, who played just a half but delivered 2 sacks, one that led to the safety to essentially put the game on ice. And for those of you that had interest in the game, put Oklahoma on the winning side. Look, part of this was because Oklahoma's outstanding, right? They're really good up front defensively. That goes without saying. Another part of this, and Oklahoma fans know this all too well, Jackson Arnold takes a lot of sacks. He doesn't get rid of the football fast enough. He holds it for a while. There were 3 or 4 sacks that he held the ball for over 4 seconds. And if you're holding the ball for over 4 seconds against this type of defensive pass rush, that's a problem. There were also a few times where he was trying to take off, trying to scramble, but those defensive tackles for Oklahoma were so good throughout the game that they wouldn't let him go. They knew that he was trying to run. He was trying to take off. They didn't overrush the quarterback. They sat there, folded in, and made the play behind the line of scrimmage. So it was absolutely those 10 sacks that gave Oklahoma a huge victory and led to Jackson Arnold running for just negative 11 yards on 21 carries. So, of course, those carries, 10 of those sacks. John Mateer, it wasn't his best day by any stretch. Like, it wasn't great, but I think he showed some of his moxie. Like, I think he showed sitting there down 1, 17-16. Auburn just goes right down the field, scores with 7 minutes left. And Auburn, frankly, their defense had been really good all throughout the game. Like, their defense had played their tails off, and I think this is a talented Oklahoma offense. Well, John Mateer goes right out there, 6 plays, 75 yards, beautiful throw down the right-hand side to Isaiah Satania that was enormous. And then he finishes it off. He recognizes numbers in the run game, takes off, runs a guy over en route to the go-ahead score. Really, really impressive performance. His moxie, I think, was on display. Even when he didn't have his best stuff, he still found ways to win the game at the very end. The controversy is, of course, what everyone will be talking about in this game. You think about the sequences that went down in this one. One, you had a possible fumble return to the house that was wiped out. In my opinion, I thought the receiver, Satania, caught the ball, took a couple steps, never tucked it, but did have possession of the football. And then the ball was stripped before he went to the ground. I thought the play, considering it was called a touchdown on the field by Auburn, I thought the play should have been upheld. I didn't think there was enough video evidence to overturn. But the most dramatic moment in this game was probably in the second quarter when Oklahoma's receiver, Satania, who, by the way, was involved in just about every crazy play in this game, whether it was 2 offensive pass interferences, a critical review on the game-winning drive, this play here that I'm about to discuss, and the fumble that was taken to the house. Satania was by far the biggest star in this game for all the right reasons or all the wrong reasons, depending on your perspective. But it was very, very shady, I guess, to say the least. Like, that's kind of the way I describe it. Satania is walking off the field. You can see him clearly on the camera. He's walking off. His body language would indicate he's coming out of the game. He decides to stop. We didn't see what happened at that point or what it looked like on Oklahoma's sideline. Auburn never sees him. Next thing you know, he's running down the left sideline. It's, quote, a hideout play. The SEC says that should have been a 15-yard on sportsmanlike penalties. So it's a touchdown for the Sooners. Should have been a 15-yard penalty. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy moment. One that, imagine probably if you're Oklahoma, you probably don't feel great about. Look, you got away with it, but, man, it doesn't feel very good. I will admit that. Look, this is a huge win, though, for Oklahoma. Massive. Like, starting 1-0 in the SEC, you now have a clear path to being undefeated before Red River. Things are in a really good spot, and I love this Oklahoma defense. I think there were a few things that need to iron out, especially with corners and how Cam Coleman kind of took it to him a few times throughout the game. But you got to be really encouraged with what you've seen. The one area you want to see from improvement with Oklahoma is they need to force some turnovers at some point. Still have yet to force a turnover in 4 games. Crazy to think about. Let's go to one of the most emphatic victories of the entire day, and that was when Texas Tech goes up to Salt Lake, takes down Utah 34-10. Really cool environment here. Enjoyed watching throughout this game. I will admit, I took Utah. We taped the show, our preview show, taped the show earlier in the week. And then I'm sitting there Friday morning watching Texas Tech's defense again. I'm sitting there thinking like, oh boy, I wish I could change my pick. Unfortunately, I got to stick with it because that was etched in stone. And I'm watching their defense more and more. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, goodness gracious, man, this defensive line is just, they're relentless. They are so good. And sure enough, man, they took over the game. But one of the biggest stories throughout this one is the fact that their backup quarterback, Will Hammond, now comes in the game, provides a spark. The game's 10-3. You're sitting there thinking like, oh man, Baron Morton out. Like, this is advantage Utah. That couldn't be it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, Hammond was amazing. Several clutch throws, goes for 170. His legs were significant, goes for over 60 on the ground, leads 4 consecutive scoring drives there in the second half, turning what would have been a really tight, down to the wire game into a comfortable 24-point blowout on the road in a high-pressure environment. Man, incredible job by the backup quarterback going in the game and getting it done. But Utah's probably looking at things throughout this game, and they're probably sitting there, man, like, we cost ourselves a lot. 4 big turnovers, couple fumbles, couple picks. Their own momentum was killed over and over and over again. You got to give tons of credit to Texas Tech's defense, too. They were opportunistic, they capitalized, and they did an amazing job. The offense, in sudden change, putting the nail in the coffin, especially as soon as Utah is going to give you a couple, no problem, man, let's finish. And that's exactly what Texas Tech did. The other thing I did not anticipate seeing this year, especially with Utah's offensive line, the strength of the team, was a group that really got beat badly in the trenches. For Utah, a team who has an electric quarterback, really dynamic run game, great offensive line, one of the best in college football, for them to run for just 100 yards, at just over 3 yards per carry is pretty amazing. Even Kyle Whittingham was surprised. Quote, I never would have believed if you were to say we would lose the game along the line of scrimmage. Never would have believed that in a million years, but they did. And that, I think, says a lot about how far Texas Tech has come and just what they might be capable of this year. They're now 4-0. And Joey McGuire's got to feel really good to go on the road and to not just beat, but physically dominate a team that has been outstanding with your backup quarterback. Speaks volumes about the culture, the toughness, the depth, and the quality of the personnel that the Red Raiders have at their disposal. I think they are the clear front runner at this point in the Big 12 based on that performance. And while I don't think Utah is bad by any stretch, I think Utah is going to still be there at season's end. They got a lot to figure out with that offense that went for just 263 total yards. So Will be fascinating to watch exactly where that one goes. But man, what a performance from Texas Tech. Can't wait to talk a little more about it tomorrow. Let's go next to the game in South Florida. Miami handles the Florida Gators 26-7. We already have been saying this for a couple weeks now. I think Miami is a legitimate national championship contender. I think there is not a team in college football right now that looks scarier on both sides of the ball. While this was not a beautiful performance by any stretch, Florida, when you play against Florida, it's going to be kind of a bruiser type of contest. It's going to be a bit of a grind. Florida wants to junk it up. That's what they do. And Miami is like, fine, we can play that way too. We got dudes. We can win track meets if we need to, but we can play murder ball also, which I think is pretty dang impressive. And you got to be so impressed with the progress that's been made defensively from this Miami defense. They hold Florida just 141 total yards. That's the lowest output this century, which is pretty remarkable. The other thing that's amazing, how often do you see a team go 0 for on third down? That's right, 0 for 13 on third down conversions. It's one of the worst we've seen in the FBS since 2022. DJ Lagway had really nothing going throughout most of the game, threw for just 61 yards. The pass rush was relentless. The secondary and the coverage on the outside was outstanding. It was amazing. Then you look at Miami's offense as things started to go their way, and you could see the snap counts and the rep exposure started to get going. Mark Fletcher, who finishes with 24 carries. Marty Brown finishes with 18 carries. Those two guys combined for 42 carries. It just physically wore down Florida throughout the game. And I think Miami sealing that thing with a 13-play, 80-yard march that took over 7 minutes off the clock. Marty Brown punches it in for that touchdown there at the end. Being able to close says an awful lot. I think Miami right now, they can beat you through the air. They can beat you in a track meet. They can beat you in a slugfest. They can beat you on the ground. There's just a lot of pathways to victory for the Hurricanes right now, which you got to feel very good about. And look, for Florida, there's a lot of things to iron out now. There's a lot of things to iron out. They had just 32 yards on their first 6 possessions. They did have the one 80-yard touchdown drive, but for the most part, man, the level of ineptitude and the rhythm and the fact that they kept running up the middle, like they had some things going with their stuff on the perimeter, and they just didn't get to it enough, in my opinion. I just feel like there was opportunities there, and they left them out there. But Florida, they're not on Miami's level right now. No one expected them to win the game. I just thought maybe they could manufacture a little bit more offensively. Look, Mario Cristobal has done a great job, man. This is a team that is built from the inside out. They are physically intimidating. They have a veteran quarterback. They have all the makings of a national championship contender, and you got to feel really good about it. And for Florida, sitting there at 1-3 after their worst start in nearly 40 years, Billy Napier is now sitting there at 20-22. This was a tough one. This was a bad one offensively for sure. The good news is for Florida, you're a couple weeks away now from taking on Texas back in your building. And Texas looks somewhat gettable right now. And guess what? The week after Texas plays you, if you're the Florida Gators, they play the Oklahoma Sooners. So massive game, got to have it, must-win game for Florida a couple weeks when they take on Texas Longhorns. Can they get it? Sure. But they're going to have to improve offensively because it will not be a picnic playing against that Texas defense. Look, other performances, all wondering about LSU. How's their offense? What's going on? Well, they hang 56 on Southeast Louisiana. Is it an indicator? I don't know. But Nussmeier did do some nice things, and it was 7-0 there for a while. Next thing you know, blink of an eye, it's 35-zip. So I do think there's things to take away from that game. I want to dive a little deeper because I don't think, and I've been saying this for a while now, I don't think LSU's offense is broken. I just don't think LSU's offense has been asked to do anything up to this point. And maybe this was the game. Maybe this was the one to kind of jumpstart the engine as they move forward. Oregon dispatches of Oregon State 41-7. This has been pretty remarkable to see what Oregon's done here in the first month of the season. Oregon State now dropped 0-4. This was a game that I think was a little bit trickier for Oregon, frankly, especially knowing what's coming up next week. They go to Penn State next week. This was just about, hey, get out of it, clean sheet, get the win, move on, don't look ahead. If we're a young football team, we've talked all offseason, how young is Oregon? There's very few teams that are playing as many sophomores and or second-year players, first-year players, third-year players. They're one of the youngest teams in college football. For them to go out, be mature, handle their business says a lot about them as well. Florida State, another 50-point victory, scoring 66 in what should be a pretty decent tune-up game before things get going for the Noles here moving forward. Getting into ACC play, Florida State is who I think they are. I'm pretty sure that they are very much a national championship contender this year. Whether you want to acknowledge that or not, that is up to you. Texas feels like they got back on track. Lackluster performance against UTEP. Kind of wondered, all right, what's going on with this offense? Well, they responded in a pretty remarkable fashion. I think it was a great performance. Hopefully it's a confidence-building performance for Arch Manning. But either way, they still have some work to do because the level of competition will increase, and we got to see them perform at a higher level against top-tier teams. Ole Miss takes down Tulane 45-10. This was a really big game for Ole Miss to showcase maturity because LSU's coming to town next week. Taking care of Tulane is massive. Tulane's a good football team. That American Athletic Conference has a lot of good football. And for Ole Miss to handle business the way they did and to pour it on them with 45 points in the process says a lot about the firepower that this Ole Miss team has. What a game they're going to have next week against the LSU Tigers. Tennessee dispatches of UAB 56-24. Volunteers offense, top-ranked offense, or one of the top-ranked offenses in the country. They put up 56 against the overmatched UAB defense that is currently 131st in the country. So not a lot to take away from there, but hey, Tennessee continues to be a well-oiled machine on the offensive side of the football. Let's go next to Georgia Tech. They'd handle Temple. First home game as a ranked team since 2015. It kind of proved that win against Clemson's no fluke. Great start, 21-zip, 4-0 now for the first time since 2014. Vandy dominates Georgia State, a team that got them last year, hanging 70 in an offensive explosion. They were able to rest their starters and get some valuable backup minutes, backup reps before they get ready to start SEC play. Michigan knocks off Nebraska 30-27. Now the Wolverines, I need to dive a little deeper into this one. We were on the call, Auburn and Oklahoma, at the same time as this game. So I only seen a couple highlights, frankly. I have not gotten to watch the entire game. I will watch it today and give you my thoughts on it a little bit more tomorrow. Missouri knocks off South Carolina. Sounds like, and I did not get to see a lot of this one either, frankly. Need to get back to it and kind of identify what happened and why. It sounds like there's a targeting foul that I want to dive into. I want to see it, want to give you my opinions on it tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that one. And Notre Dame gets their first victory of the year in pretty remarkable fashion, hanging 50. This offense is real now. This offense is very real. You got to be pleased with what you've seen on that side of the ball. But I think most Notre Dame fans still somewhat concerned with what they're allowing on the defensive side. And then finally, I referenced it, SC knocks off Michigan State 45-31. And a really nice win for the Trojans. Other notable outcomes. Memphis knocks off Arkansas. You got to feel for the Arkansas running back in the fumble inside the 5 going in, down 1. They have a field goal in the bag, but trying to score a touchdown. He extends, gets the ball knocked out. Arkansas can't get off the field defensively. Memphis wins a significant game. And I'm going to tell you, by the way, tomorrow, one of my takeaways is how competitive the G5 has been against the Power 4 here in these first few weeks of the season. I have a theory, and it's one that I absolutely want to share with you guys here on Always College Football. So make sure you tune in for that. That'll be one of our 10 takeaways tomorrow. So make sure you come back, check in with us. A lot more to dive into, but it was a great day of college football. We hope you enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed it, and we look forward to breaking it down further with you on a Monday edition of Always College Football. So for all of us here at ACF, for Mark, who, by the way, is joining us on GoGo in flight. He's literally on an airplane right now coming back from South Bend, Indiana. He took his boys up to the game yesterday. He's a diehard Fighting Irish fan. So he's on the plane right now. I want to give special credit to him and special credit to GoGo in flight for actually being able to allow him to work on the plane. I'm sure he's been so helpful in preparation of this show. For those that are listening on the podcast platform, I'm rolling my eyes. For Jack, who was working on the SVP pod until about 3 a.m, wakes up early and does this with us. We appreciate you, Jack. For the other Jack, who we're still not sure what he does for the show, but we always love him. For intern Sam and for Jake, who always is great from an editing standpoint, we appreciate you guys. For all of us here at ACF, we hope you have a wonderful Sunday. We look forward to being back with you tomorrow. It's Always College Football. Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.